Hello, everybody. I'm going to update you on what we discussed in class on Thursday, November 5th, and what is due for Tuesday, November 10th. So, first of all, watch this video because that's going to tell you or show you how to do everything. The first thing you're going to do with your introduction is put in the line numbers, then reread your introduction. Identify 3 elements that you are pleased with, highlight them in yellow, reread your introduction. Identify 3 elements that you are not pleased with. Change the font of these elements to red. Reread the introduction. Identify which sentences need in-text citations. Highlight them in green. Continue watching this video to learn how to do the next parts. Use OWL citation machine and create and insert in-text citations and works cited page entries. Follow the models that I'm going to be demonstrating, and you will need to submit this later. I will decide when, after class on Tuesday. So let's begin. The first step is to take your introduction and just your introduction without your name on it and without anything else identifying you, and to show line numbers. The way that you can do this is to go into your search box, which I believe is not being recorded right now, but you can go into the search box for Microsoft Office and type in show line numbers. And then you'll see a menu that opens, and you'll put in continuous. And then, as you'll see, the line numbers are revealed down the page. That is step 1. Okay, that's step 1. And just as a model to show you that I'm covering each part of it, I will then go over here and I will, this, and then I'm going to cross it off. And this is something that you guys should do as well as you're doing this assignment. Okay, you can print it out, however that you want to do this, but make sure that you do each thing. And as you notice, I also clicked off or crossed off watch this video, but of course what I really meant to do was cross off number 2. Next is reread the introduction. So I go down here, the Nazi version of the Jim Crow law. Isabel Wiggleston wrote a book called Caste, and in the book, she explained the way black and white are separated and who belongs in the caste system. Caste is the artificial, arbitrary, graded ranking of human value on a society. Caste determines one's standing, respect, access to resources or lack, assumptions of confidence, and even beauty. Wilkerson, classifying people by caste. America has its caste system that is hidden until you look at it, and this system was developed to divide blacks and whites to justify slavery. On June 5th, 1934, the Nazis started a plan to create a law designed to enforce segregation of Jews from Aryans in their everyday lives, and it would be called the Nuremberg Law. And the first thing they thought about is the United States and what they can learn from it. Nazis got their idea to establish this rule from the United States. the Nazis admired the Jim Crow law, which discriminated against black and segregated them from whites, and they debated whether to introduce a similar segregation in Germany. The Nazis decided to adopt most of the American system of Jim Crow because they found some features particularly appealing. A few elements of the Jim Crow law that Nazis did think they could translate into Germany is racial classification. Secondly, they liked the idea of separating races in public. Lastly, a law that they found appealing to include in their caste system was limiting their voting rights as well as career possibilities. So this is what I mean by reading it out loud. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the checklist here and cross off, reread the introduction. Now, there's a reason why I'm stopping after every step. It's not just to remind you to do the same thing, but also to give my working memory time to process what's going on. Okay, so now I'm going to identify 3 elements that I am pleased with in this person's introduction, and I'm going to highlight them in yellow. So go back here. One thing that I really liked was this quotation that was integrated from the video that I had you watch. Another thing that I liked was the inclusion of a specific date, because that helps us to figure out what time period Wilkerson is talking about. Then a third thing that I liked was that this here is really the thesis statement. Okay, this here is really the thesis statement. Okay, it's in the wrong spot, but I like the way that it's worded, or mostly the way that it's worded. Okay, all right, that's an important thing to remember. So right now, I'm just going to indicate that that I think it's a thesis statement, but it needs to be in the wrong spot. The way that I can do that is I can go to insert, and then there should be a place to insert comments right here. And then I just need to make this a little bit smaller now. And just have to write it out to myself. This is the thesis statement. Needs to be moved so that it is at the end of the paragraph. That's just a little note to myself. Now, if you're using a touchscreen computer, you can also go ahead and use the draw mode, and you can just kind of choose an ink here, right? And just I can draw to put it down here like that. Okay. So that's something that you can do if you're using a touch screen with Microsoft. Office or Microsoft Word. Okay, so I've identified my 3 areas that I think are strong. So I'm going to go back to the checklist, and I'm going to cross these off. Now, I think that this is very important to do, is to go sequentially and cross things off as you go along. So the next part is 6 and 7 and 8. Reread the introduction. Identify 3 elements that you are not pleased with. Change the font of these elements to red. Okay. So we go back to the introduction and we start back up at the beginning. The Nazis' version of the Jim Crow law. So one aspect is just here, because for titles, all the nouns or verbs need to be, and the adjectives and adverbs need to be capitalized. And then I'm just going to put this in very quickly. I'll consider this the same issue, is that's Jim Crow laws. Let's see. Isabel Wiggleston wrote a book called Caste, and let's see. I'm not gonna necessarily put this in red, but I am gonna give the comment so that later on I remember this, is to use the entire title of the book when referring to it for the first time, and also be sure to follow capitalization. Capitalization rules. Oops, what the heck? Capitalization rules. Capitalization rules for titles in American English, and to use MLA formatting rules for titles. So the 2 parts there. Change the way that black and white, and then just because I'm noticing it, I'm just gonna come back in here and add it in, even though it's not in the instruction, but I noticed it. Black and white people are separate who belong in the caste system, right? So now here, this is an in-text citation, and it needs to be fixed to be the MLA format. So I'm gonna highlight it, or not highlight red, I'm gonna change the font to red. And I'm also going to go back and put in a comment to remind myself that check the MLA format for videos on YouTube. Excuse me. Okay. Then another point, and I know I'm doing more than my 3, but I figure I can save everybody some time because these are things that we should be looking for, that you until you look at it. Um, so um, just a couple of things here. I'm going to highlight it and then suggest a rewrite as well. I'm going to insert this and explain it. Avoid using second person pronouns in academic writing because the essayist is not speaking to the reader. So do not use you, your, yours, um, yourself, yourselves. Then while I'm at it, I'm also going to say avoid first person pronouns in academic writing because the essay is not supposed to be about the essayist. It is about a topic. So do not use I, me, my, mine, right? Myself, we, us, our, ours, ourselves. Okay. So if I were going to rewrite that sentence, I'm going to rewrite the sentence. I'm just going to put it out here in the notes so you can remember it. America has a caste system that is hidden until it is looked at, and that's going to be comma because it's not. And this system was developed to divide black and white people to justify slavery. Okay. So I'm gonna just now take this whole sentence and highlight it here. Or actually, just maybe not so much highlight it, let's just put a comment by it. Um, well, I want to highlight it. What do I want to do with that? Because that would be going over my 3. So I'm just gonna actually probably what I'm gonna do is can't highlight it. So maybe what I'm gonna do just um, as a note for further on, I'm gonna go to draw, and maybe I'll take pen and I may use red in this case here. Use red, and I will use red, then draw, and then I'll take this, and then I'm just gonna also just draw a line down there so that way I know to look at it again. right? So, you know, feel free to um, do this to your introductions. Okay, you can go beyond what I've suggested in for editing, just like I'm going beyond what I've suggested. But I think it's an important um, thing to do, to look at really every line, every sentence carefully. Um, we have right, and then also I'm also gonna say over here, just to justify slavery, and also I'm gonna insert a comment, because it was more than justify slavery. It was also to um, justify slavery and social and economic divisions to establish superiority of whites over former slaves and their freeborn descendants. Right. So that'll work like that. Okay. I think that I'm also going to suggest, just because I've read this a few times, that here, at this point, we make this a separate paragraph. Right? Now, as I said in earlier recordings, that the thesis statement does not always have to come at the beginning of the first paragraph, because sometimes the introduction is longer than than one paragraph. So we have an introduction about what is caste. That's going to go down in your first paragraph. And the second paragraph, part of the introduction, will be about the Nazi plan. On June 5th, 1934, the Nazis started a plan to create a law designed to enforce segregation of Jews from Aryans in their everyday lives. And I'm just going to change this to this. Okay, because this is just an editing thing. And this would be called the Nuremberg Laws. And this is just going to be, and just because I know what the content should be, I'm just going to change it like this. You're not expected to change the content as you type, but if you do find something that you feel that needs to be changed right away so you won't forget it, then just change it. Because sometimes you don't want to have too many notes to yourself, because the notes can become overwhelming. So if you can just change it right away, then go ahead and do that. Okay, Nuremberg Laws, comma. And the first thing they thought about, and this should be the past tense, right, was, because it's happened in the past, was the United States and United States, comma, and let me make that green, just because I don't want to run a sentence. And what they, and this needs to be can, the past tense is could, what they could learn from it. And over here, you want to just have the Nazis, it's plural, got their ideas so the Nazis got their ideas to establish, instead of saying this rule, to establish um, their own form of religious and racial segregation from the United States. The Nazis admired the, let's just add in here, the degree to which the Jim Crow and then laws is great. This Jim Crow was not just one law, it's many laws. Laws. Um, get rid of this here. Um, discriminated against blacks, and we want to definitely make sure that we capitalize this. Blacks and segregated them from whites. And they debated whether to introduce a similar segregation in Germany. Then we have to kind of add on because it wasn't black and white here; it was Jews, right, in Germany. That would separate Jews from Aryans. Nazis had died to adopt. Okay, so then actually what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of work here. We're going to take this and we're going to pull it up to here. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I figure, what the heck. Right. And then we're going to change this to, oops. Actually, okay. So what the first thing we want to do is change this to firstly. Firstly, they liked the idea of separating races in public. And here you could be, secondly, just to kind of, if you wanted to keep things consistent. Secondly, a law that they found appealing to include in their caste system was limiting the vote. Here, there is not really limiting the voting right. There is not specific enough, so it's kind of hard to tell who's voting about Jews voting rights, as well as now you can have there again their career possibilities. The Nazis decided now we can kind of cut that. Whoops, what happened there? Kind of now we can kind of delete that, and we can get rid of the highlighting. The Nazis decided to adopt. We can get rid of the highlighting, and the Nazis decided to adopt most of the American system of Jim Crow because we found some features particularly appealing. Sure. So we need a transition word here, but I'm not sure what. So I'm just going to put in transition word needed. I can see that. And then into a lowercase. The Nazis decided to adopt most of the American system of Jim Crow because they found some features particularly appealing. Because they thought appealing. Because they appealing. Because they, this saying think, you want to change it to past tense, because they thought that they could translate, because they thought that they could translate, that they could translate, translate, that they could modify the American system to fit into their vision of a racially pure Aryan society. So this is revised for content and organization, as well as the things that I originally said that we should put into red that we thought we needed to change. And that's okay because we saved some steps. Okay, let's go back and look at our checklist. So we've done 6, 7, 8, and 9. So let's cross those off. Okay. And now we want to, whoops, I also cross off 10. So we're a little bit ahead of the game, but you need to identify which sentences need in-text citations and highlight them in green. So we go take a look at over here, and this is one that needs an in-text citation here. I'm going to highlight that in green. I'm going to change it from yellow to green, which is okay. Now, here we have the source, Wilson classifying people by caste. Now, I know, because I spoke with a writer, what she's referring to. And I also know, because I designed the program that we're doing, or the plan that we're doing. However, an outsider would not know what this was referring to. Okay. And this is a problem because your readers should always be able to know exactly what you're referring to when you do in-text citations. And that is going to be on another video from part 2, because this video is now 35 minutes. So we will continue this on another video.